Are you looking for an Amazon movie that is both interesting and confusing to watch? If so, sit back, kick up, and let's go talk about it. Hello, beautiful humans. How are you doing today? Let me tell you something about Amazon real quick before we kick off with the Guardians, and that is pretty much I am not a huge fan of commercials being literally in the middle of a movie. There are like 5 commercials that are like a minute and a half long. It really does pull you out of the movie. I'm used to watching a movie from beginning up until end and no commercials whatsoever. I don't know if it's in all of their movies. I did not see that, but specifically for this one, it's in this one. Not a huge fan. I don't know what I need to do to make it go away, but I'm gonna figure that out one day. If I have to pay more, then I guess I'm just gonna have happily. If I have to pay more, it looks like I'm just gonna end up sticking with it anyways. Either way, I think this movie is definitely good for those who are into CGI and those who are kind of into interesting storytelling, just because the CGI that is put into this movie is really good. Now, does it fit 100%? No, it doesn't. It feels a little offsetting, but at the same time, it does look good in the movie. I had no expectations going into it, but there are things that might work for you, might not work for you. If you're new at it, or you have ideas, or you're confused or lost, I believe that this will be a good movie to give you a good idea of how to create something or put you in that right direction in a creative stance. Other than that, Guardians is pretty much set in Russia during the Cold War with a secret organization called Patriot, and their job is to create like super soldiers or superheroes with different powers and abilities. They end up creating 4 and then they end up not using them, thanks to none other than a wonderful scientist named Kuratov, which is their lead scientist, and potentially his partner who supposedly quote unquote ratted him out. There happened to be an explosion, and then that ended up turning Kuratov into a monster. He ended up escaping, and then the 4 powered superhero people that they use with government money that they helped build and create, and all the torture that they went through, they ended up like dispersing them, and then they just kind of went their own way. A huge time skip did happen, which is about 40 years, which they tell you randomly in the middle of the movie, from what I understood, or maybe I might have missed it somewhere in between the commercials. And we find out that these heroes do not age whatsoever. So that's great. They're immortal, and they find out that they're pretty much immortal or age super slow, one or the other. But either way, they all have abilities that they don't really end up using. The only person who ends up using it is the one who can turn invisible, only in water. But to be honest, this movie did really feel kind of rushed. They did never really clear coat anything throughout the whole entire movie. They just kind of threw everything at you. They threw every single person at you. They kind of took their time on introducing every single one at a time, and you end up learning their names, like Lair, who are Lairnik. He wanted to be called Lair, and he has like rock telekinetic powers. He can control the rocks around him, but his power was a little bit confusing because it was like they would attach to him like a magnet and he can throw them, but he needed time to kind of wind up sometimes. It was interesting to see how his power worked. There was also another character named Khan who had, I couldn't tell which one it was, which was either teleporting or super speed. There was a point in time when they showed his power, his eyes turned white, time kind of slows down, and he kind of does whatever he needs to do and kills whoever he needs to kill, because I guess he's the closest thing to the assassin that this team has. It was like, is he teleporting because he's like turning into the shadow, or is he moving that fast? Very hard to tell exactly what is happening. And then there's Arceus, who had like the simplest and probably the most painful power, which is to turn into a bear. I would prefer to turn into the Hulk over whatever he turned into. Yes, he turned into half bear, half man, but that just looked painful to see your skeleton like reform into a bear. I'm just saying. And then there's Kaecilia, who has the ability to turn invisible in water, and at the same exact time she has the ability to control her body thermos, so therefore she's not detectable on thermal camera, but they ended up detecting her in the movie anyways because she has a weakness, and Kuratov knows exactly what that was. Either way, they pretty much get put back together by this government organization called Patriot, where they're just kind of agreeing to go back after this person and they're rebuilding themselves kind of as a team again. Either way, every time they have a confrontation with Kuratov, they pretty much get beat down the whole entire time, including with their upgrade that they ended up getting, which I was still kind of confused on some of their upgrades. Either way, they did the best they possibly could. Now, a couple things that really didn't sit with me with the heroes was that they have like their personal issues that they never really did get to flush out. Like, for example, Arceus has this huge problem where he's like, how many times can I transform into a bear? Because I feel like I'm losing my humanity into this bear form. I feel more like a bear when I'm in human form, and I need to know how many times I can transform. That question literally never gets answered throughout the whole entire movie. So my big thing is, why bring it up to begin with? It is something he was worried about like almost 3/4 into the movie. By the end of the movie, he's not even worried about it anymore. But again, I didn't have very many expectations for this movie. It was enjoyable to see. It was cool to see the CGI, the transforming into the bear and how their powers worked. I think that looked really beautiful. It looked really great, and I really did enjoy it. Just kind of everything else, just the story itself, just kind of needed a little bit more work. Other than that, I would definitely say it's worth a watch with friends and family, or if you really have nothing else better to do. Let me know down in the comments if you've seen it, if you have any plans on seeing it. This movie, by the way, did come out roughly about 2017. And either way, if you like what I'm doing and you've stuck with me for this long, don't forget to click that subscription, hit that like button because it does help me out with that YouTube algorithm. And don't forget to click the bell notification for every time I post, you won't miss anything. And most importantly, above everything else that I have said so far throughout this whole entire thing, don't forget to kick up and not down, and I will see you the next time I post.